Hi, this is Dan Sigmund, and we are coming with some new information here to keep you up to date. If you recall, last June, we came to a meeting at Juneau for the Dodge County Health and Welfare Ordinance draft, and it was discussed, but then it was placed under wraps until the Wisconsin Counties Association's work group came up with recommendations for it. Well, those recommendations have come through now. These recommendations recommend to get an ordinance in place, and there are reasons that it does that, and there are reasons why we really don't want that to happen. The reasons they state is because, number one, there's a state of emergency. There's a pandemic out there. Everybody's going to die, right? We've heard that so often. This is actually going to be a power grab by unelected bureaucrats, unelected people in the government, a power grab over us, we the people. I'd just like to read you a few words from Supreme Court Justice Rebecca Bradley that will apply to this. It is in the midst of emergencies that constraints on government power are most important. Approving the exercise of extraordinary power during times of emergency may lead to extraordinary abuses of citizens. Another, when a notion of what is good for society contaminates constitutional analysis, the rights of the people otherwise guaranteed by the text of the Constitution may be trampled. And we have seen this happen now all summer long. One more. Popular pressures in times of crisis implore judges to cast aside the law in the name of emergency. Doesn't that sound familiar? Now, history teaches that grave threats to liberty often come in times of urgency, when constitutional rights seem too extravagant to endure. When we allow fundamental freedoms to be sacrificed in the name of real or even perceived emergency, we invariably come to regret it. This is from Skinner versus Railway Executives Association in 1989, an actual case. So here's what we have. We have, ironically, a comparison first. Last weekend, the Washington County chairman of the Board of Supervisors went on live Facebook, I believe it was also, and signed a resolution that was unanimously approved by the Board of Supervisors, from what I understand. And it was a resolution that went against Governor Evers' state of emergency for Washington County. Now you just compare that to what we have in Dodge County, where Chairman Kotke and his fellow leaders decided to just sweep this ordinance under the rug until they received the Wisconsin Counties Association's recommendations, and now they will probably revisit the ordinance. It will probably resurface, but now we want to be ready to address it in a better fashion than we were able to in June, because it came up so fast there. So let's see a little bit about what this ordinance is supposed to look like according to the Wisconsin Counties Association's guidance, they call it. Now, this group that came up with this guidance consisted of 6 health officers, 2 city attorneys, 2 county attorneys, of which ironically Dodge County's head of Corp Counsel was on there too, so they brought her in for that. 2 officials from the Restaurant Association, and 5 more government officials. These people came together to create these recommendations. Why do we need an ordinance? It is interesting that we found out from the Supreme Court decision regarding Evers' emergency order that was struck down, they need to have an ordinance that has to piggyback on top of Wisconsin statute number 252. Everybody says, not everybody, many people say, well, our health official has the authority to do all of these things already according to Wisconsin Statute 252, so we're just going to put it in an ordinance also. That's not true. We just found out last month from the Supreme Court of Wisconsin that even the state-level health officer did not have the authority to do what that statute said supposedly she could do. It then also means that the county-level health officers or health official absolutely does not have that authority either. If they will put this ordinance into place, that is what's going to give that health officer the teeth and the fangs that whoever it is needs to do what they want to do. So if we keep this ordinance from happening, our health officer, the county level health officer, will not have the authority to do what Wisconsin Statute 252 says they are to do. And that's what we have to be active about. The ordinance needs a legal foundation. It'll piggyback on 252. The Supreme Court considered it inadequate for the state level county health officer. It is also inadequate for the county level health officer unless the county puts an ordinance in effect to be piggybacked on it. So an ordinance is put in place, and what do they recommend for this ordinance? According to their guidance, they call it guidance. They don't call it a recommendation. You're not supposed to take it as a legal brief, but a lot of legal things were in it. It's guidance to number 1, page 41. They want the county to insert language to invoke an enforcement mechanism. You have to have something to enforce the rules and the laws that are supposedly in place. Now let's back up a little bit. In a constitutional government, we have a legislative branch and we have an executive branch. The legislative branch makes the laws. The executive branch executes the laws. And one of the biggest problems that the Supreme Court found in their decision when they looked at the Andrea Palm issue was that she, in the legislative arena, she in the executive branch was taking on powers from the legislative branch by making these rules and orders. And you cannot cross the lines of separation between branches of government. Why do we have a separation of powers? That's the word, powers, separate powers, to protect the citizens, to protect we the people. When you start combining the powers of one branch with another, you have either one person, as in this case, or a group of people with all the power, and that is where the danger lies. So they want the language in the ordinance to invoke these kind of powers to enforce the rules. There's a reason for that. Now the next thing on page 42, they want the ordinance to list penalties. They want it spelled out. They want the penalties spelled out for violation of the ordinance, and they want penalties spelled out for obstruction of the execution of the ordinance. So don't get in anybody's way when they're trying to execute the ordinance. You're going to be fined. And the reason they can't put you in jail, you'll never see it in the ordinance, they can't put you in jail, they can't arrest you, they can give you fines, they'll get money. But they can't put you in jail because criminal acts have to be defined by statutes, and all these are not defined in the statutes. So they can only go as far as giving you penalties for it. But we don't even want to go that far, because who knows what the penalties are going to be, what kind of level they're going to be put at. So they want the penalties spelled out. Page 42, they want specific orders mentioned for isolation of infected persons. They want it spelled out what happens to infected persons. How do you isolate them? Not only that, they want orders spelled out on the quarantine of people who were exposed but still are looking and feeling healthy, that have no visible signs of being sick. They want orders to show and to reveal how these people are going to be quarantined, which includes quarantine guards. They also recommended quarantine guards for this place. Page 43, they want contact tracing enforcement spelled out. Doesn't it start sounding here like a police state? This is the problem. We have to stay away from this type of thing. Let's get one more. Page 43, citation authority for the health officer. Isn't that convenient? citation authority for the health officer. They can write out the citations, again, that executive power to the legislative branch when it comes to the county level here. We have to keep these boundaries defined and separate. So all this is what they are guiding the counties to include in their ordinance, so that the local county level health officer will have the power to do what that health officer feels they need to do. Without the ordinance, they only can appeal to Wisconsin statute number 252, and the Supreme Court said that's not enough. With the ordinance, on top of that, everything that isn't in 252 is defined by the county ordinance, and now the county health official is ready to go. Not a good idea. So this guidance for the ordinance actually gives that health officer a strong, authoritative hand over all of us, all of we the people, because of the details that will be in it. Those two things, the ordinance and Statute 252, will become the dynamic duo of tyranny. It will become the powerhouse to make everything happen. James Madison actually alluded to that in his Federalist paper number 47, if you want to look that up. How did they know that back then? History repeats itself. They saw it happen across the world. They came to this new land. They said it's not going to happen here, and here's how we're going to keep it from happening. But what are we doing? We're growing, we're increasing, we're making bigger an administrative form of government that's basically crippling the constitutional form of government that we started with. But there's also legal proof through case law that the Constitution always trumps the statutory way of doing things, the administrative way of doing things. Now, according to Wisconsin Statute 227.10, an administrative department or agency cannot make laws. No authority to do so. That's another reason why they want to see it happen in this ordinance, so that it's there in place and the administrative agency can just comply with it. There's a reason things are happening the way they're happening. What do we recommend? We recommend no orders. We just recommend recommendations at the most. Just make recommendations for the county. We have this health officer. Make your recommendations and let the people choose, in the freedom and the rights that they have through the Constitution, choose to adhere to them. We do not want control over we the people by an unelected bureaucrat, which this would give. We just want protection of our rights at the very least. That's what the Constitution demands. And we do not want tyranny, we want constitutional government always. Now, the chairman of the Dodge County Board of Supervisors was waiting for this guidance, and now it's here. We'll have to keep watching to see where things go from now till then. A few more little sayings here that I found from judges and justices. The greatest dangers to liberty lurk in unnoticeable but gradual losses of liberty by men of zeal, well-meaning men of zeal, but men without understanding. That's from Olmstead versus the United States in 1928. It was happening back then already, but the judges saw it and said, this is dangerous. We're seeing it now. Men of zeal, well-meaning, intentioned, but yet they lack understanding of constitutionality. Here's another. Emergency. That's what we're in, right? This is an emergency. What are we going to do? Emergency does not create power. Emergency does not increase granted power or remove or diminish the restrictions imposed upon power granted or reserved to government. The Constitution was adopted in a period of grave emergency. Did you ever think of that? It was a grave emergency when this Constitution was adopted, and that's what it demanded even back then. It grants power, which is not altered by emergency. That's Home Building and Loan versus Bladesville, 1934. Case law. How about this? This transfer of power to an unelected and unaccountable health official, a bureaucrat, no matter what safeguards are put in place, and you'll see that. Well, we know that this could be a danger, but we will put safeguards in effect. We will make sure everything comes before the Board of Supervisors before anything that our health official wants to do, any order she wants to put in place will become a rule or order. We'll safeguard that. Well, no matter what safeguards are put in place, this transfer of power is away from we the people, and it jeopardizes the Constitution's safeguards against the tyrannical concentration of power. Power is supposed to be spread out. Now it's all coming into one place because of an emergency. According to the Constitution, that should never happen. Thomas Jefferson, we can still learn from him. He warned us way back then, the time to guard against corruption and tyranny is before they have gotten hold on us. It is better to keep the wolf out of the fold than to trust until the drawing of his teeth and the talons after he has entered. We don't want this ordinance. Not at all. That's allowing the wolf to get into the henhouse. Informed by the lessons of history, the Constitution was established to safeguard the rights of the people even under the most urgent and pressing circumstances. When rulers would seek by sharp and decisive measures to accomplish ends deemed just and proper, isn't that what we hear? This is the right thing to do. This is just. This is proper. Rights are getting in the way. We have to do what's right here, not defend rights, but do what's right. Well, if they seek by sharp and decisive measures to accomplish ends deemed just and proper, that the principles of constitutional liberty would be in peril, you have to stay away from that. That's why the Constitution has established rights protection as unrepealable law. We don't want this ordinance. Help us stand against this ordinance. It is especially in times of emergency that we must protect the rights of the people, lest we establish a dangerous precedent empowering less benevolent government officials in the future to oppress the people in the name of urgency and emergency. That's the word you will hear. Emergency, urgency. The founders of this country, the men that put together the Constitution, they knew what these things were, and they said it is for this reason that we have to stand stronger for these protections. Fear never overrides the Constitution, not even in a pandemic. This ordinance would take everything that we don't want to happen and make it happen. It'll strengthen what's going on. So, what can we do? Let's all be prepared to address this issue. Number one, join Free in Dodge, freeindodge.com. It's a place for all of us, all of we the people can come together and not only learn what is right and what is wrong and why, but if you give us your contact information, we can contact you when you need to be involved in certain issues that come before the county board. Also, in this Free in Dodge, we are getting together citizens from all 33 districts of Dodge County so we can have representation over the whole county and have contact with all the supervisors from their constituency. There's a place that lists all the government meetings, and we hope you all can help us get that complete. Then we're going to have reports on all these meetings after they happen so we all can be aware of what's going on at all levels of government. Please visit the site and you'll see what I mean. There are blogs called Constitutionally Sound, where we will share these things, some of which I've shared today, even in writing. And you can transfer that to your supervisor so they can become educated in this also. Knowledge is strength, numbers are strength. We want to have both here. Let's learn together and let's grow together to a group that's going to stand for constitutional government. Let's build them up strong for every citizen in Dodge County, because many hands make the workload lighter. I'm just going to close with this one quote from Justice Rebecca Bradley again. It is in the midst of emergencies that constraints on government power are most important. What are we doing in this emergency? We're giving the government more power, not according to what is constitutionally correct to do. Approving the exercise of extraordinary power during times of emergency may lead to extraordinary abuses of its citizens. So please join us on Free in Dodge. Please take part. Please stay in contact with us and help us stand against this ordinance when it does come around. Thank you, and pass this around to others.